his name has been invoked so many times already over the course of this conference. I would like to invite your friend and mine, Mr. Patrick Debois. Thank you.
Good morning. My voice is a little bit lower than yesterday, but that's normal. That's day 2. I'm Patrick, and I like to learn. And I learned a lot about and from this community. And for that, to give back, I also enjoy sharing what I learned on the way. 15 years ago, DevOps, collaboration. For now, my passion is going towards AI. We don't know where we're heading, but that's the fun. I like emerging things. I like connecting the dots. So bear with me on this presentation. I hope it makes you think. I don't have answers like I didn't have 15 years ago, but I don't care, right? It is the journey. I'll start with a video, and I know you all like tools, even though you don't admit it. This is a new tool, Cursor, where I just put a markdown with a specification, what I want, how I want it, a front end, a back end, operating system, all the things, the directory structure. I say, create this application using these specs, and lo and behold, it starts running, creating all the files. This is $20. It's even free if you want to try it. This is technology existing today. And you see it going on, and it's still slow. Well, I can't top that fast, so it's even faster than me, obviously. And then, what is my task? That is basically reviewing on, hey, what did it do? Oh, that looks good. Next thing. Oh, well, it did it like that. Fair enough. So I kind of keep reviewing things as it generates stuff. But the real test is, of course, does it run, right? All the things that's nice, and I kind of think it works, it looks nice to me, but will it run? That's the question. It even gave me README instructions to how to run it. So let's try to run it and see what happens. I follow in the instructions. You see all my typos because, hey, sorry, closer? All right, I'll do it a little bit like that. Okay. That's the beauty of automation. It runs while you're not doing anything. So, apparently it failed, and now it's helping me. It just looked at my terminal what failed, and it's correcting now the next instructions. This is kind of the state where we're at. Is it not perfect? But it helped me generate the initial one, it helped me debugging, and it will help me the whole time while I keep working my problem. I found this really fascinating. This is different from a ChatGPT or kind of just, kind of working on there. It runs, hello world, blah, blah, blah. We're all happy. So where's the industry heading? We had the ghost text in your editor showing your stuff. We moved to the chat asking for questions. But eventually what we want to do is we want to give it a task. It generates the code, we give the feedback, and we kind of get into a loop with the human kind of writing code, giving feedback, and so on. So that's where we're heading as the industry. If it's any interest of you, you can look at something from GitHub. It's called like LangSpec, where they talk about kind of generating a language actually to kind of maybe generate these kind of specifications. So this is where products are heading to. Just found it important for you to kind of set the base where we're now at. It will evolve, we'll see. So I showed you that I wrote some markdown specs, but what if there is a directory where I go and download things? Hey, you're an expert in Python, you're an expert in that. So I'd say, use this identity, use these specs to create this task. So that's where we're heading in there. So this brings the elephant in the room, right? Do we still need the humans? I think I showed you right now, we're still in that tight feedback loop, and that makes a lot of sense. And code written by AI will just increase, whether we like it or not. Like Hannah said, there's no way of stopping this right now. Unfortunately, this is also what happens, right? People laying off employees and saying, well, for AI's sake, we can do more efficiency to do things. Even AWS CEO said, stop coding. Please stop coding. It's a waste of time. Well, if you think about writing the specs and being more in the business domain, it kind of makes sense that hopefully we always hoped in the industry we could spend more time there discussing the problem than actually doing the toil and writing that code. So what we're hoping for is that it's not taking our jobs. It might take some parts of our tasks, right? So writing that code for us is helpful. But people will say, you know, there's been a big post. We're only in our editor so much time, and it's a fraction of the time we're working. So what are we optimizing for? Like, it's the optimizing of the optimizing. Well, you could probably say that. And there's another time wasting in big companies, which is waiting for handovers, waiting for decisions, right? So what have we, again, it's a small portion we're optimizing. And you can measure, and you know, every company that has an AI tooling introduction in their company, they want to measure the ROI. Is it more productive? They're doing A/B testing with teams and say, is A more productive than B? And will we get closer to our KPI? And all the measurements, and we actually don't know exactly what that is. Even with Dora, right? I got it confirmed. But if this is Adidas, their numbers. They have team 2, which is a very mature team, and the way they can do their work is close to 69, 70% that they're working on the tech stuff. So you see, if you have a culture that reduces the toil, reduces all the friction, has a good decision process, you can get that productivity. Unfortunately, not everybody's there, but if you get there, you can even increase your productivity. And I've gone certainly through these stages of, will it affect me? Well, it's a hype, and eventually you're like, okay, this is awesome. Oh, we're running out of jobs, and now I feel indeed it gives me superpowers. I can do things I've never done before. I have background, but I can still kind of go faster. I don't know if, who many remembers the ironies of automation. Raise your hand if you do. Only a few. So that paper was instrumental for DevOps, and it showed the paradox between automating things and then dealing when the automation was not working. So this paper is, in my opinion, the translation for not just the systems automation, but the GenAI automation. And it predicts the shift of, hey, I'm an operator, I have to review things, so I have to understand what is going on. I want smaller tasks to review, so you see all the bullets that I showed to do the reviews. That's just one example. And you kind of have a paradox that you spend more time doing more complex stuff, right? Even though it's like faster, you spend more time. Reviewing, more, less typing. That's the task change. And even if coding gets more productive, we spend more time reviewing. So there's more cognitive load put on us because all of a sudden we have production and like we have to keep up with the production. The breakdown, like I mentioned before, step by step, understanding what it goes. And we might rely more on the automation. We say, accept, I don't care anymore, right? We still need tests, right? Like there's a study that says people using Copilot, they are more inclined to press accept in the weekend. Why? Because they're, whatever, click, okay. So, but there's a risk of just accepting this, right? So that's the risk of just having something generated that you don't understand. And this brings me to maybe our editors need to change, that it's not code anymore, but we understand better what we're trying to achieve. And one of the discussions is here, like it's called like moldable development, where your editor actually changes with the problem to present it in an understandable way what you're doing. Again, we're not there yet, but this is things, if you take that paper, that we're heading towards. We want to be fail-safe. We want to give it feedback. We want to create options. Hey, there's 3 screens. Which one do you like? What part of the code? How did you want it? So those are all things that go beyond that initial code generation to make it easier for us as humans to be there in that loop and understanding things. And we all like feedback, right? And this is a video application. I asked, generate media application. Here it goes. Congratulations, you all been rickrolled by AI. Because it takes the YouTube video that's more used in code to create my sample. Anyway. So the way that I look at it, having the history of DevOps, is that we spend a lot of time in the beginning, infrastructure as code, and getting the code running and getting the abstraction right. And we spent 80% of our time, of the 15 years, dealing with failure. Observability, monitoring, we got resilience engineering, we got chaos engineering because we were not used to dealing with failure anymore. So we needed to learn to deal with failure because we weren't used to it, because the automation was doing that. So that's the way I look at this, that yes, the code production, but the tools hopefully will get better for us to debug, to chunk down, to cognitive load, all the stuff that we learn in automation that will kind of deal with this now with the code generation. And one example is actually a startup who takes your code and turns it into lessons. Because if we have to understand everything to do approvals, the senior people get the advantage because they know, they learned over years. But the juniors, they have to train. And that's kind of where the training, the chaos engineering, us preparing for makes sense. And of course, right, in the future, we'll blame somebody else, and we might, blame the AI, but that's a different thing, right? It's just a matter of collaboration that will just stay the same. But is it the same? Or do we have to treat in the future agents as digital workers? This was the first contract to be issued to a digital worker as an employee. Are we heading towards agent team topologies where our agents are collaborators, the ones supervising our work, become the CEO of a small company? I know it's future, but it's interesting to think about what we're expecting from those roles, how far we are away from those roles, and whether that's going to make sense in the future. But we already know that agents will be in a form of specialized agents and generalists. Does that sound familiar? And as I've shown you, LLMs, you can see it as cultural transmissions, cultural technologies. Wikipedia is a cultural technology. It's cool technology, but it actually mimics the culture of the humans. And LLMs are the same. I've shown you kind of with the rickroll, right? It is mirroring what we put into this. And if you put agents together, and one agent is having toxic behavior, it influences the other. We talk about code of conduct, right? Well, OpenAI has described what agents should kind of adhere to. It's not the laws of Asimov, but it is be nice to humans, collaborate, all that stuff. So you see, every time it feels like this is the most helpful person in the room trying to help you, even if he can't. But we also see, if we kind of do tests with agents, kind of those identities collaborating, the diversity is key. Because if they're all doing the same thing, they will hit the same nail over and over again and will not improve. But if you got multiple perspectives, it will improve. So even further speculation, what will happen to our team size? Will become smaller because we only need one person who kind of can deal with some of the reviews. We're doing the rest of the coding. We don't know. This is a lot of speculation, but I find it fascinating. And for me, this is possibly the culture and the impact on the organization of technology. Socio-technical impact. We don't know yet where this is heading. So Will this shrink? This is another reference. A person thinks, hey, we're heading towards different sizes of teams, different forms of collaboration. We don't know yet. But what we do know is, might be exaggeration, we don't know, maybe in a couple of years, we'll get more productive. And that one person, it can't be a specialist anymore because he has to do a lot of reviews of different things. So how are we going to organize ourselves for that? And here, Jürgen Appelo calls this the fast learners, the ones who can adapt. So it's not what you know or the full stack. It's the one that can kind of like, hey, there's something new. How fast can I learn? And I showed you the learning being instrumental as part of the last thing of the automation. And I think we've been all learning, but how we get better at learning to keep up and to deal with this. Or maybe we're just cleaning up after the agents, right? Even more ops for us, right? We don't know. What's also interesting is that companies that start, they are getting smaller to reach Series A. I don't know if that's correlated, but you definitely can do a lot more with a lot less people these days, right? And I think in the end, we overestimate the effect, right? A lot of buzz, a lot of kind of things we think it could do and hype, and then it will go down. But we'll underestimate what the effect will be in the long run. And I know you're going to ask, when will we get there? And I'm sure it's going to be faster than Linux on the desktop. Thank you very much.